Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. The political situation after the former Prime Minister Mian Nawaz Sharif's return, we'll be talking about a lot of his narrative while he was talking yesterday to the people. Also, a couple of things that he talked about, what he said to the people about the future, the PMLN's concentration in areas. Although of course, it's too early for the PMLN to give out a manifesto, they did come up. Mia Saab did talk about certain key areas. We'll be talking about that. Of course, also the legal side of things for the former Prime Minister as they stand, what we can expect in the next couple of weeks. And of course, the elections which are looming ahead, what kind of position are we looking at for the PMLN, the response or the crowds of the people that we saw, the PMLN standing behind their leader and what it means for them as they get ready to go into election mode. All of that today on Perspective. I have with me Naveed Aman Khan, who's a senior analyst. Thank you for being with us today. We have with us Barrister Yasser, Latif, Hamdani, who's a legal expert. Thank you for joining us today. And we also have with us Ahmed Sheikh from the PMLN. Thank you for being with us. Let me go to Ahmed Sheikh Saab and then I'll come back to you. Saab, we all saw the former Prime Minister yesterday. We saw his speech. We saw him speak to the people. Overall, in terms of the narrative, I think earlier on we spoke a while ago and you said that the narrative of the PMLN is going to be conciliatory. It's going to be about bringing Pakistan, moving forward away from the kind of polarization that we saw yesterday. A lot of the things that Mia Saab said yesterday indicated the very same. How do you see things now for the future as far as the PMLN is concerned under the leadership of the former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif Saab?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Mahrukh, as you know that Mia Saab has arrived in Pakistan after 4 years. So it was a huge reception and people emotionally attended that meeting yesterday. And we also had a large number of people from Chanjot. I led them, but I could not reach the meeting because I was away 5 kilometers from the Jalsa and all roads were chalked there. So it was a remarkable and unprecedented Jalsa yesterday. So I'm very glad that because people usually used to say that PMLN cannot fulfill this Minar-e-Pakistan. So this was about Jalsa, but as far as the Bayaniya of Mian Nawaz Sharif is concerned, he said almost detailed roadmap. And he gave that there will be reconciliation and we cannot afford now the political turmoil. It has been enough political turmoil and that is the main reason of the decay and delay and downfall of economic and political scenario in Pakistan. So now we are with the open mind. We want to have reconciliation, not only with the political parties but also with the institutions and establishment and pillars of the state. So that was a very good sign. And another very remarkable thing he mentioned in his speech is that we want to have better relations with the neighbors. I think this was a bold decision, and he said that honorably we want to find out solution of Kashmir matter. So the Kashmir solution of Kashmir. So that is
when we talk about the PMLN and the policy, let me interject here. When we talk about, I have to go to other guests, but we talk about pursuant to the neighbors and our policy. Even, earlier on, PMLN has always been open to Pakistan making overtures on the other side for the benefit of, our economy, for our mutual benefit in terms of, perhaps for the region, for Pakistan as a market, all of those things. But unfortunately, those overtures have always been rebuffed. Isn't that true?
Yes, it is true. Of course, in the past, it did not, we could not fulfill. Mia Saab had ambition that there should be close relations, not only political but also economic relation in the region. You see, we at present are not in a position to do business anywhere, neither with India nor towards Bangladesh. And Afghanistan was closed, as you know very well, and Iran, there are sanctions. So we were forced to do business outside our region. Although almost the whole trade and export-led growth is in the region. You see, Southeast Asian countries, they are having about 65% of their trade in region, and we were forced at that time we could not fulfill our ambition of the development of, and Mia Saab gave this idea and this bayaniya very clearly that we want reconciliation, we want to have a good relation with our neighbors, and we also want to
Yasser Saab, let me come back to you on that note. Let me come back to you. I'm going to go to Yasser here and then Naveed Saab. Yasser, in terms of the legal side of things, of course, you know, we all saw the footage of as Mia Saab signed certain papers, and you know, in terms of Azizia reference, and I understand, you know, there are two Al Azizia reference, there are 3 other cases also. How the Avonfield being one of them, how do you see things now in terms of the legal challenges for the former Prime Minister?
I think as far as the immediate legal challenge, obviously him coming back and there's, you know, the need for a protective bail, that's been resolved. Till the 24th of October, that's when he has to appear before the Islamabad High Court, and that's the Al Azizia reference, of course, and I believe the Avonfield reference as well. So that part is clear. Now the question really is of the disqualification. Obviously, you know, in order for him to become the Prime Minister, he has to overcome that major hurdle. And I think as far as that is concerned, you know, with the Election Act amendments, it's, I think, Section 232 of the Election Act Election Act, and it's quite clear that that disqualification no longer exists.
But is it going to be? I mean, it's about interpretation. You know, there is. In fact, you know, the Practice and Procedures Act not having any retrospective effect. And then, you know, of course, whether that's going to align with the overall interpretation of there being, you know, no lifetime disqualification. That's going to be a question for the Supreme Court. Is it still not, or you think that, you know, it's effectively resolved now?
As far as the law goes right now, I believe, and let's talk about the Supreme Court Practice and Procedure, of course. After that, the Supreme Court has pretty much shown its mind in terms of how it's going to approach legislation.
Okay.
Now, given that situation, given the fact that it talks about, or it would kind of nod to parliamentary sovereignty, parliamentary supremacy in that sense, one would imagine that the election, I don't see how there can be any two interpretations of the Election Act and the amendments that were passed through it. As far as I'm concerned, that particular thing applies. It might go back to the Supreme Court. Somebody might actually go ahead and challenge it and say, you know, that this is. But as far as I'm concerned,
but isn't the procedure normally? I mean, when you file papers, it's normally about scrutiny, and then it goes. You know, the other side usually goes files an objection, and then that usually goes to court.
Precisely.
So that side of things will happen in due course if it does.
In due course and as per procedure.
But is there also another case, you know, at this time that is with the Supreme Court, as I understand that you know, on the matter that's going to be adjudicated upon?
Not exactly on the disqualification issue.
Okay.
As far as I know, there isn't. But it might be taken up if the Election Act amendments are challenged.
Okay.
That is obviously a question that it at least, but I am pretty sure of the outcome, and I believe the outcome is that the Supreme Court, as it stands today, is
not okay with lifetime disqualification.
It's not okay with lifetime disqualification. It's perfectly all right with the legislature legislating and changing these things. So
to whatever they want.
To whatever they want. They're very clear on the principle of parliamentary
supremacy.
sovereignty.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. Let me come back to you. Ji, Naveed Saab, keeping the legal side of things aside, we are now looking at the former Prime Minister meeting his party and, people and working on, of course, the future. He talked about inflation. He mentioned, power, tariff, price hike, all of those things very clearly. So there's no doubt that the PMLN leadership is cognizant of the reality of inflation, and he also said that whatever has happened is not because of Shehbaz Sharif Saab under his leadership the last 16 months or so. So it's right there, it's very open, he's talking about it. But do you think what is it going to take for that to resonate with people? Or you think it's already his coming back has added a kind of life to the PMLN already?
Definitely, Mahrukh. His coming to Pakistan has added life to Pakistan and Pakistani politics and even Pakistani economy as well. Because the indicators are now positive since he has arrived. Because we believe that the economy was not in good condition, politics was in bad conditions, and the mess was created in the country. Uncertainty was already there. So the speech of the Supremo is very important. We need to have a bifurcated explanation of his points. He has talked about the reconciliation, number one. Reconciliation within the country and out of the country as well, on both sides. We need to have a good relationship with all the parties. If Nawaz Sharif wants to come in power, or he comes in power and he takes a seat, he will have to join hands with the political opponents as well. And Chaudhry Shujaat Hussain and Maulana Fazlur Rahman both have welcomed Nawaz Sharif's that speech and that point of reconciliation. This is a very good thing. And even I would say,
you think there's a chance of that kind of reconciliation with PTI also?
Definitely, it will. And if PTI is also included in that reconciliation process and is also consulted for the better good of the country and the nation, it will have international impact and it will have a national impact. When we talk about the reconciliation, we need to have it on the broader spectrum and include all the stakeholders, all the political parties, political position holders should also be consulted, and we need to have a way out as far as the Pakistan politics is concerned.
Let me go to Kaisar Saab on this. Kaisar Saab, do you agree? I mean, I don't know if you've been listening, but having a political stake and allowing other political parties to have that kind of stake is going to be, is that also on the agenda as far as the PMLN is concerned? Are you open to, sharing? Of course, it will depend on the results of the elections. All political parties want a majority, even a 2/3 majority, all of those things. But at the time, as an experienced politician, how are you looking at the elections and how are you looking at the kind of space that you think will be available to any one political party?
I have just heard in the news bulletin, that Mian Saab has decided, they had a family meeting today, and they have decided unanimously that they should contact the other leading leaders of political parties. So Mian Saab is in next 2-3 days contacting himself. He wants to take all those political parties along with. It has been a policy of PMLN even in the past. PDM was you see a political 13 political parties merged together, not merged, worked together, and they had the 16-month government. The parties were being consulted, all those parties. So similar intention is there, and this is the only out, because we suffered a lot with political turmoil. We cannot afford the Chor Daku politics is not prevalent now. It is not possible. So I think it's a good policy, and all political parties should, as far as there had been a charter of politics in the past, also a charter of democracy. So similar discussion should be with all political parties. There should be some minimum agenda, some minimum agreement on politics also, and confrontation should be minimized. So this is, I feel, is in mind of Mia Saab, because at present we have to sort out the inflation, as you talked very well. People are suffering heavily with the increase in the prices, and there is also you see the poverty, below poverty line, many million people new are coming under the poverty line. So this is not a good sign for Pakistan. We should now have reconciliation and work for.
Earlier on, we saw, the PMLN saying that they will not have any kind of seat adjustment at all with other political parties. When all stakeholders are going to sit together, you are saying that Mia Saab has decided that, and PMLN has decided that they are going to, go for dialogue, so to speak, or have other take other political parties also, considering the kind of situation that Pakistan is in. Do you think there's a chance of there being some kind of seat adjustment also, or all political parties are going to be contesting on their own? Is it too early to tell? What kind of a palette, what kind of landscape do you see?
I feel that in PDM there were 13 parties. There is, of course, a chance of seat adjustment where one party has a good candidate. There could be discussion. This is a matter of discussion. When we discuss Charter of Democracy, so it means that we don't want to have confrontation. We don't want to have outright just what happened during 2018's Parliament. So that was not a good solution for the betterment of Pakistan. So we have all parties have at least realized it. So I feel that there could be all options should be there. It is early, you mentioned rightly, but these things could be discussed and debated, and then there should be final outcome will come out for that. But at least some outright confrontation should be avoided.
Right, fair enough. And you're saying that everything is open at this time, the dialogue and what happens pursuant to that. It's going to be, up to political parties, but primarily it's a development. I will go to Naveed Saab on this. Naveed Saab, it's certainly a huge development, which, Kaisa Saab is talking about.
We don't want to go for the conversation. And yes, I think it's open at present. And next few weeks will indicate all things about it. There has been some problem in connection. So I think that this is the time. Next few weeks, it will come out that what is the exact date of election and what would be the possibility. You see, not a single party is in a position to get, I feel, a 2/3 majority or even a smooth majority. So we would have to find some solution which is in the benefit of Pakistan, which could make Pakistan a vibrant and developed country, and in which there could be a direct foreign investment in Pakistan, and export-led growth is there, and people get benefit of this. So
fair enough. Kaisa Saab, let me come back to you on that. Naveed Saab, what do you think, after what Kaisa Saab is saying? He's saying it's going to be about, coming to some sort of, in the larger interest of the country. What kind of a landscape is that going to be? What kind of a dialogue is that going to be then?
I think for the national interest benefit, we need to have a broader dialogue with all the political parties and the stakeholders. In particular, we need to keep in mind the situation of Balochistan and KPK. Okay. As far as the security.
In KPK also there are new parties. There is, if you
there are, but the security issue is very important in both of the provinces. Nawaz Sharif will have that security situation in his mind as well, and how we will tackle TTP or BLA or the other such groups on one side, and for the political solutions, we'll have to gather all the political parties on one forum and consult them before it is too late. And it's a very good beginning that Nawaz Sharif has initiated that he will consult all the political leaders and he will go for the reconciliation and try to minimize that polarization which has swallowed Pakistan and which has damaged Pakistan. For the last 5 years, we have been suffering from this sort of situation and uncertainty. So
that's fair enough. But what kind of, Yasser, what do you think? As a lawyer also, and as a generally as a the way you're looking at things as an observer of politics, what kind of a scenario will it be? When you are, of course, going into elections primarily to contest against each other, and yet there's going to also be again a dialogue or a reconciliation. Perhaps a reconciliation when there were political parties in power, 13 political parties, like Yasser Saab also said, would have been a different thing. But now, before the elections, what kind of a again reconciliation will it be?
Well, I think we, the parties concerned, would want to find some common ground as to when the elections are going to, obviously elections, that's something that the ECP is going to decide. But I fear that perhaps the elections might be delayed further. And I mean, that's just my personal opinion. And I don't think that's good for the country. So a reconciliation is very important for these parties to come together and say, no, we want elections. And that's the irreducible minimum for the country, to have elections. I think that would be one. I think reconciliation also, but here's the problem, unfortunately, the rhetoric that has always come out of PTI has been so abrasive. But I believe that a reconciliation, a real sort of truth and reconciliation type of a rapprochement would be only possible if PTI was also brought on board. Unfortunately, their rhetoric is what it is. So one would have to see how Mr. Imran Khan fits into that narrative. But ultimately, as long as that irreducible minimum of having elections as soon as possible, because that is the most important thing. And I think now situations with the return of PMLN's Supremo, as it were, we now have a situation where everyone is coming to that realization that elections, now we won't expect this indefinite, sort of 1977 type scenario where elections would keep being postponed. I think that would not happen with the arrival of such a popular leader back home. And we don't know what's going to happen right now with Mr. Imran Khan, but People's Party is also gunning for elections. So I think that reconciliation has one point minimum agenda, and that is to restore the democratic process.
Let me go to Javed Jadoon Sahab. He's a senior journalist. He's also here with us. Javed Sahab, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Javed Sahab, there is, here Yasser Saab is just also is talking about there being perhaps a reconciliation between political parties, with the former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif Saab initiating it and wanting all political parties on board, perhaps a dialogue. What kind of an effect do you think this dialogue is going to have on a political process where we are expecting elections and no political party is going to, it doesn't look like any one political party is going to be able to have that kind of an effective share? Perhaps a 2/3 majority, even a simple majority seems, we don't know the results, but at this time, and perhaps it's too early, but at this time it seems difficult.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mahrukh. I think these main political parties have been at the loggerheads for the last 30 years. Now it is about time that they need to sit together and at least they can decide about a 2 or 3 point agenda, how they can coexist. Unless and until they do that, there is not going to be any positive outcome of the general elections as well. Because if political instability continues in the country, you are going to achieve the opposite what elections could achieve in any given country or in any given time period in Pakistan. Because as was pointed out, the head of the Pakistan Muslim League N has come back to Pakistan. But I think what is needed is now he has to reach out to other political parties. They can sort of decide a few agenda points. And these agenda points could include that they will not go against each other, not use the aggressive language. They should present their own political philosophy to the people of Pakistan, their own agendas, economic growth and development, rather than going out against each other's throats as well. Because this is how people perceive the main political parties in Pakistan. I think been a long time, and we need to be mature enough to understand that the political stakeholders are the stakeholders at the end of the day, which are going to lose or gain with the political process in Pakistan. If you continue to ridicule each other, continue to target each other, and continue to make inflammatory statements against each other, one message to the people is that the political parties haven't matured in Pakistan. Second is that electorate will start losing interest in the electoral process in Pakistan. Until and unless we involve, it has to be all-inclusive kind of exercise if we go for the general elections. If the turnout in elections is below the expectations of the political parties, that would be the kind of a verdict of the people of Pakistan that, look, we are no more interested in the political process. We are no more interested what political parties talk about as far as the resolution of the people's problems are concerned. And thirdly, and most importantly, people will start losing their hope as far as the political system in Pakistan is concerned. I think it's a good beginning that Nawaz Sharif is back in Pakistan. He's a very mature politician. He has been in power thrice. And I think he should know better than anyone else in Pakistan that reconciliation, a grand dialogue, whatever you call it Truth and Reconciliation Commission or whatever, we can have our own Truth of Reconciliation Commission in Pakistan. Maybe we can give it a different name. But I think as a most senior politician in Pakistan, most experienced politician in Pakistan, I think there's a more responsibility on Mr. Nawaz Sharif other than on any other political party. So he can reach out. I think his tone was conciliatory, what he talked about at Minar-e-Pakistan. He did not challenge the powers to be. He did not go after his political opponents. I think that seems to be kind of a silver lining as far as Pakistan's political landscape is concerned. But I think we have got a long way to go before we reach the particular target we have set for ourselves as a democratic society. Because if political parties continue to squabble, continue to fight against each other, at the end of the day, the people of Pakistan they stand to lose a lot, because now Pakistan is suffering for some of the most important challenges in its history. For example, the economic meltdown we had seen in the recent past. Now, of course, the economic indicators are improving. And secondly, I think the political stability is directly connected with economic stability. Unless and until we have economic stability, political stability in Pakistan, we are not really going to achieve the economic stability, economic progress, and economic advancement for the people of Pakistan, 250 million people of Pakistan.
Yasser sab, will this dialogue, include PTI also as as a political party? Is it going to include PTI? Is it going to include all political parties, or is it just of course they were not a part of the 13 parties which were in coalition?
Mahrukh, when we are talking about reconciliation, it means that all political parties should be included. But of course, there are people who were directly involved in the 9th May incident, and they are the proven, some facts are there. So apart from those people, I think PTI is a large party. There are a good number of people who are sincere to the cause of development of Pakistan. They should be talked with them. We should have debate with them, because otherwise, you see, there will be the election should be free and fair election, and the perception should be such that all parties recognize and accept those elections. That it's being held freely and fairly.
Is it going to be also about setting a date for the elections? Of course, that is the purview of the Election Commission, but primarily agreeing that, there is not going to be a delay, that kind of thing also, as far as these political parties are concerned?
You see, it's a preview, you rightly said, it's a preview of the Election Commission. and they already indicated that in the last week of January the election should be held. But with the mutual consultation, there could be some extensions in the date if in the best interest of the country. It should be acceptable to all. I think no one will object to that. And there, the discussion means like that because People Party is emphasizing and they want that election date should be announced as early as possible. I also feel that this is one of the main prerogative of election commission, and they should announce the date of. Now Mia Saab have arrived here, and there should be.
Commission set the 29th January as the date for the elections.
Yes, presently Election Commission indicated the last week of January. So it should be according to that, similar to that date. If I think the party will agree to that date. All parties want free and fair election, but before that, there should be some outcome of the reconciliation for that. Otherwise, if the results are not agreed, even in the earlier elections were held, but you see there was some sort of selection was there. So if the impression is such that there is not proper fair election and there is a selection, there is no use of those elections. The people will not agree to that, and the results will not be in the benefit of the country. So presently all efforts should be made.
Let me come back to you. Naveed sir, what Yasser Saab seems to be saying is that there has to be agreement that the elections will be recognized by all, the results whatever they may be, and that there might be even a delay that could be agreed upon. So basically it's all political parties sitting together and coming up with chalking out a plan for the future. And perhaps this is something that was talked about for a much earlier, but it never happened because, like Yasser also said, one of the political parties was always against it. And we saw, because of that, there was very little movement. Perhaps it is something that should have been done, like, again, a long time ago, and it will set the right kind of tone for the future?
It's too early to decide about the elections. It lies with Election Commission, not with the political parties. So Election Commission will have to decide which day or which month is suitable for the elections, number one. The most important thing which we need to focus as political parties is, number one, end to the political uncertainty, or end to the...
But how is this about political uncertainty when there is going to be an election date what the Election Commission is going to give and all the political parties are going to contest?
No,
then what kind of political uncertainty are we talking about? Is it?
Now the things are moving in a better direction. Nawaz Sharif has come. He has come in the political arena now.
What is the purpose, in your opinion, of this dialogue?
The dialogue is to bring harmony, to bring to build confidence among the political stakeholders, and to create that certainty which will be felt after that dialogue.
Yasser, there is, when we talk about political certainty, or we talk about the fact that there should be some agreement, or the question is, apart from PTI, the elephant in the room, so to speak, all the other political parties were on board anyway. We saw them being part of the coalition not very long ago. So essentially it's about how much dialogue, or what if the PTI is going to be able to participate in the dialogue, how amenable they are to having a kind of working relationship, which you must remember wasn't possible a few months ago.
Precisely, and I think there's a lot of responsibility when the history of this era is written.
But isn't it too late? I mean, what kind of an effect will that have now?
Well, in terms of so here's the thing. I was listening to what Yasser Saab was saying, and he talked about May 9th, and I think May 9th was an extraordinary tragedy, and it's something that any Pakistani would feel bad about. But the thing with reconciliation, the thing with a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, for example, I mean that term comes from South Africa, of course, is to look past those, to figure those things out, and then forgive and forget, and then move on for the greater sort of healing for the nation. May 9th was a grievous wound for the nation, and I think so in that spirit, I would imagine that ultimately PTI would have to be brought in and would have to be spoken to. And if only better statesmanship and sort of better counsel was available to the chairman of the PTI, he's unfortunately, his
or
circumstances are.
Perhaps counsel was available, which was not taken. A lot of the after effects of this incident seem to indicate, and we don't know the truth of it, but there have been comments that perhaps he was assisted, he was counseled, but that didn't really go well.
And unfortunately, that is one of the things it would be very interesting to see what the historian writes about this particular period in time. But I'll tell you another thing. I feel very strongly, having looked at Pakistan's unique political system as it is developing. I think for the interim period, and by interim period I mean maybe a couple of decades, now that we've moved away from the obvious interruptus sort of the interruption of democracy that has happened so many times. This is the first time that we've had continuous democracy for 15 years without a military ruler. I think we are going to have this interim phase where there is going to be some sort of a hybrid, where there is the establishment working together with the political parties, slowly giving ground to them. I think the reconciliation itself has to be between parties, between political parties, realizing that we are not going to upset the apple cart, as it were. We are going to work with the establishment. We are going to have this electoral democracy going forward for years, and then we would slowly take the space for civilian rule and democracy and that's how it has happened. We are not unique in that sense.
Okay.
It has happened in many countries. Just because it hasn't happened in, say, India, for whatever reason, doesn't mean that hasn't happened elsewhere. I think we have to go forward, taking into account some of the unique challenges that our political landscape presents, and then sort of work together. So the reconciliation that you're talking about has to be on these lines, where it's not just idealism, it's pragmatism as well. There are certain politics is the art of the possible, as it were. We have to figure out our terrain and work according to it, and that's, I think, what this country needs right now is statesmanship, not just in political circles but also in the establishment, and with the clear goal that we want to.
Fair enough. I think, Yasser, what you've said is very it's very relative to what is happening at this time, very relevant to at this time perhaps, and the way we look at things and how idealistic versus how pragmatic they should be. Even when discussions take place, on the political scenario. I'm going to go to Javed Jadoon Sahab. Javed Sahab, I don't know if you heard what Yasser said. I think he raises a very interesting point about where we are at this time, in terms of our, whether the kind of reconciliation that we need to be able to move forward to heal from the events of May 9th. Do you agree? You think that, perhaps it is the right course of action to set the right tone for the future, and perhaps all political parties also realize, like Yasser Sahab here also is saying, that it's going to be a different kind of an election with one, doesn't look like one political party is going to be able to have that kind of stake, but all political parties need to work together for the kind of changes, the kind of reforms that this country invariably needs to move forward.
I think, Mahrukh, there are two important factors which are going to play a role in the stability of Pakistan. One is we need to understand what happened on the 9th of May was the most unfortunate incident, and it wasn't acceptable, is not acceptable, will never be acceptable as far as the state of Pakistan is concerned, because no political party, group or alliance should resort to such activities. We haven't seen it anywhere in the world. Having said that, I think we have to move forward, because if we stay embroiled in this particular at this particular juncture in an issue which has deeply impacted the political and economic landscape of Pakistan, I think we will not be able to resolve and shed our demons as well. One political party, of course, as was earlier pointed out, they may be good people in Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. There may be people who did not understand what they were doing. There were people who might have done it deliberately as well. But what could be done? What could be done as far as the political parties, other political parties are concerned? They can have, they can engage the elements who are moderate elements and sane elements from Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf and talk to them and tell them, look, what happened on 9th of May was most unfortunate. The party, which claims to be the National Party of Pakistan, shouldn't have done that. But since the party is paying the price as well, the elements who were involved in 9th of May mayhem are definitely facing the law of the land as well. But as far as the party itself is concerned, I strongly believe that it should be part of the electoral process in Pakistan, because if it is a one-sided exercise, Mahrukh, and one political party wins the elections and comes to power, I think we'll be back to 2013-14, when we saw that the political polarization brought Pakistan at the heels, and even the Chinese president couldn't
is
visit
indicating conclusively, Kaisar Saab, that you expect PTI to be part of that dialogue. Isn't that true?
Yes, you see, a lot of discussion has already been held, and I think all those views are on the right side. Even at present, PTI should realize that it is in their benefit to show some flexibility. You see, 9th May incident, what happened, the people who did deliberately that cannot be understood or cannot be recognized, that cannot be accepted. But you see, all political parties should take part in the election, and they should be, otherwise the election will give impression that it is a selection, and we would have to sort out some solution of that. We should go politics, as was rightly said, that is the art of making solutions and making some agreements. So we should find out that how to go forward. And otherwise, and you are right when you said that this should have been done much earlier. This should have been, this discussion should be much earlier, but up to now we could not had any conclusive result of that discussion.
Certainly. Thank you so much, Kaisar Saab. Thank you for being with us. Naveed, Aman Khan, thank you for joining us. Barrister Yasser, Latif, Hamdani, thank you for being with us. Javed Jadoon Saab, thank you for joining us. Overall, it's a good sign that we are looking at the former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif Saab after his arrival aiming to initiate a kind of dialogue between all political parties. And like I think Yasser has said, it is a time of healing for all political parties and for looking at the way forward. And of course, the elections, that the results are accepted by all of those are considerations that perhaps now would be a time, and perhaps that time was a few months ago. But of course, better late than never, and we should now come to a point where we can have this kind of dialogue. All political parties, all stakeholders can work together and towards a betterment of Pakistan, towards setting the right kind of path, towards setting the right kind of goals, whether these are reforms, whether these are reforms in the economic sector or legal reforms. They have to come with the kind of resolve from all political parties, and all political parties need to be part of this reconciliation, this dialogue, whatever we may call it. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.